Hi guys, um, welcome to my Kickstarter live um, party for Even If We Tried. It's great to be able to do this and sit down and do it again. I really enjoy these little talks that we have about my books and stories in general. Um, just let me know if you have difficulty hearing me, and I'll try figure out uh, what the story is. But anyway, I hope you have had a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and thank you for tuning in wherever you are. Just out of curiosity, where are you from? If you want to drop in the comments, I'd love to know where you're from. But yeah, so um, I'm just here to talk a little bit about my story. It's always a bit weird talking about. Does have to start raining, so yeah. So currently at the moment, I'm living in a mobile home, so every single sound is amplified, and well, in Ireland, you probably can hear it. It's rain, so yeah. Living in a mobile home, the sounds are amplified. But yeah, anyway, what was I going to say? But yeah, it's been relatively quiet all evening, and then the minute I have to start this, then it starts to piss out of the heavens. But okay, it's Ireland. What can you expect? Um, but yeah, I'm kind of a bit rusty here. It's kind of a bit weird just even tuning in here to discuss my books. I find I'm very awkward talking on camera. It's not usually my area. You know, I'm just kind of the sort of person who would rather write and just push the stuff out into the world and let people read it, and that's more or less. But it's still nice to be able to talk about the books that I write and see how people are feeling about them. But yeah, so if you're only tuning in, yeah, let me know where you're from. I'd love to know. I'm from Ireland. If you're new. But yeah, anyway, so I'm just gonna give a little rundown of what I've been up to while we wait for a few folks to filter in, and then after probably about 5 or 10 minutes, I'll start talking about my books and my stories and whatnot. And yeah, I'll even read a chapter of my story, the newest story, even if we tried, and discuss what are the prequels and the future. Um, Oh, hello, from Wisconsin. Um, yeah, cool. Yeah, it's nice to have you here. Thank you for tuning in, and it must be around lunchtime there. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, especially on the middle of a weekday. It means so much. But yeah, um, so I'll just discuss what I've been up to lately. I've been tirelessly working on many different projects, especially for my author career in terms of Even If We Tried and the Dumbstruck series. And these two series, I really want them to meld together and bring the characters from Dumbstruck and Even If We Tried um, onto a bigger playing field so that they constantly cross back and forth, and these will be my main set of characters. So if you've read Dumbstruck, you'll be already familiar with Julian and Braden from the series, and um, Sam, Ethan, and Austin all feature in Dumbstruck Part 3 during the hockey match, which is the conclusion of the new book. Anyway, I'm not going to ruin anything what's happening in the book, but in terms of timeline, the newest book, Even If We Tried, brings us up to the timeline of Dumbstruck Part 3. And these two worlds will start to connect a lot more. Originally, they were two separate pieces, and going forward, I hope to have them overlap with each other much more. Um, and yeah, have the characters mingle with each other. My newest book, Dumbstruck Part 4, Austin is going to be a predominantly big character in the book, so we're gonna see a lot more screen time of Austin. And yeah, it's just funny to think that these characters that were a fragment of my imagination have grown so much over the years, and I am um, expanding upon them in the world that I've created. Um, and here I am, 5, 6, 7 stories later, with Austin, and he is by far my most reused character, and I hope to keep using him in terms of new stories, because I think he's quite an interesting individual. And of course, I'd really like to add a couple of spin-offs and maybe continue, even if we tried, with Sam and Ethan, because Sam was the first character I ever actually wrote predominantly, that I connected with and I shared with the world, because he was a lot like me when I was a teenager. So he's probably the character I connected with most. And of course, I'd love to continue on writing from Sam's perspective. Um, but yeah, so in terms of prequels, and even if we tried and that and everything, you have Sometimes with Reality, which sets the precedent with Austin Copeland, who becomes the love interest for Sam, and even if we tried. And yeah, it gives you some backstory on where he came from, and it is briefly discussed, and even if we tried. But yeah, Austin comes from a privileged background, if you want to say. He went to a boarding school. He was a weekly boarder, and yeah, some not so nice things happened while he was at boarding school, and this instigates the actions of Even If We Tried, and how he ended up in the world of Old Harbor, which is this. I don't know. This is just a little drawing I drew a couple of years ago of Old Harbor and the location, which also features in A Case of Jitters, which is also set in the same school. But yeah, so this is a familiar location that's going to be utilized a lot in the next coming stories. And in Oregon, I took quite a bit of inspiration from that location. And yeah, I just loved it. There's a particular kind of Midwestern kind of town vibe to it, and you have the ocean. It reminds me a lot of Ireland, and well, it made it felt more Americanized, of course. But during my trip to the USA, I traveled the whole West Coast, which a lot of my stories are inspired from the Washington and Oregon coastal area, and it was everything that I kind of imagined it would be, and just seeing it, that's what I had envisioned all these years before, really drove it home for me. So yeah, so it's a lot like Astoria, Old Harbor, or New Haven is kind of a mix between Denmark and Sweden as well. Their kind of culture, and yeah, so and then gradually, How I Live Now as well is another story that tells the story of a boy called Kyle, who is a runaway, and he meets this boy called Mateus, and he gets into a bit of trouble, and they enter into the underworld, the crime world of St. Clement, which is where Austin Copeland would have lived prior to Even If We Tried, during the time of Sometimes with Reality. And they are the instigators of why the Copelands move to Old Harbor. And without giving away too much, um, this also fills in a missing timeline gap in um, giving Austin and the Copelands a reason to leave their old life behind and kind of start anew. So yeah. Um, and then It Would Be You, which was a Christmas story, told primarily by a guy called Dominic McCready and his. Uh, it's just primarily told by Dominic and his uh, his reluctance to move on as he's in a state of bereavement over his late husband, and he's trying to do his best raising his young son Eric. And then, of course, a new hot doctor kind of moves into the town of Orisund, and which is off the coast of New Haven. I keep saying because I'm looking for a conjunction, and it's the most simplest word that I can think of. But okay, so this is the top half of the section of my world. Like there's a lot more, but you can actually find this on my website. This is the middle half, and then this is the bottom half. That's the bottom half, so it's quite a big world. But if we're talking about just the top half section, Old Harbor is around here. Yeah, so there you go. And then you have New Haven, and then Orsond is a small little island just out here off the coast, and they all share a similar geographical location. And during that story, It Would Be You. Dominic is actively creating the Copeland's new house that they'd be moving into for Even If We Tried. There's some crossover between that story and Even If We Tried. So yeah, if you like cutesy little Christmas romances, definitely worth checking out. But besides the point, getting on to Dumbstruck. So Dumbstruck primarily connects with the main series now because Austin and Brayden are both cousins, and of course you're going to have family meetings and that and everything. So I thought that would be a cool spin on things. But also Austin's, oh sorry, not Austin's, Brayden's love interest Julian plays hockey, and then Sam's best friend Ethan plays hockey, and I thought it'd be kind of a cool thing to kind of join them there and bring these two worlds together. So you have two brooding hockey boys who are not exactly the best at showcasing their emotions and feelings, and yeah, I just thought that would be interesting. Um, Definitely coming up though, the boys. There's going to be plenty more drama. You have the new summer coming up now here in Dumbstruck Part 4, and you have high emotions. There's a new family member in the book that Brayden is not exactly on board with, and uh, Brayden and Julian have their relationship tested a little bit more, and Austin is also a catalyst in this whole debacle. But so yeah, there's definitely more to look forward to as these two worlds collide with each other and cause more drama. And yeah, there's definitely that cool little mismatch of information. But yeah, if you want to keep up with all of that information, I'd suggest signing up for my mailing list, so that you don't miss any of the information that would be out about Dumbstruck um, when it's ready to be released, of course. But okay, anyway, I'll move slightly on. I'll just talk a little bit about my characters, and then I will um, what was I going to say? I'll talk a little bit about my characters from Even If You Tried, and I will then perhaps read a little bit of the book for you. Um, I'm trying to keep it a little bit informal. I know it's not probably the most like explosions and fireworks and confetti kind of thing, but uh, yeah, it's just the way I'm. I suppose I am. I just like the quieter little moments. But anyway, so these are drawings that I drew a little while back to get a or to share with readers so they had a better idea of what Sam and Austin and Ethan looked like. And this was my depiction of what Sam looked like at the time. He kind of looked maybe a little bit like me at the time. I took some inspiration from Sam. Um, sorry, a likeness from myself when I was a teenager for Sam. But yeah, Sam is just this average kind of kid who likes to blend into the background, and he likes drawing, and he just wants to be more or less in his own bubble. And that's the way I suppose I was kind of like at that age. I just wanted to be left alone, just kind of float through high school undisturbed, and just listen to music and play video games and all that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of character that Sam is. He's humble to a degree. He can be outgoing, but he's more of an introvert. It definitely tires him out having to interact with people. And yeah, that's how I kind of envisioned his character originally. Not a wow character when you think about it in terms of like paper when you write it down on paper, but I thought that his character growth would go from something just bland and plain, kind of everyday kind of kid, to something that's more rebellious and changing his beliefs because over love and also over ridicule that happens. And even if we tried, um, so it becomes a bit more devious as time goes on. Um, and this is directly influenced by Austin, who becomes the kind of the catalyst who promotes this change. But yeah, so I find Austin there. Yeah. So yeah, so this is Austin, the boy who kind of relatively kind of sets Sam down the path of kind of a rebellious nature. Um, he, of course, has taken on a lot of emotional baggage from his previous stories. I don't want to ruin anything in case you haven't read them, but he has some pretty heavy baggage from the previous stories, and of course he hasn't dealt with them psychologically, and by the time he gets to Even If We Tried, he's somewhat more of a brooding character, and he's just waiting for the right opportunity to kind of just explode, and to just take off and just blame everybody in his path that who seeks or who did him wrong or who wants to do him and Sam wrong. And this is kind of a catalyst for Austin. I originally, when I started the book way back when in like 2017, I always envisioned him as I kind of romanticized his kind of idea, like that he'd be the perfect boy. He'd be, I mean, nothing wrong with him, and he'd be intelligent, and he'd be cute, and that and everything. And then as time went on and marinated the idea, um, I kept arriving at the fact that no, I don't want him to be perfect. Nobody is, um, and then we arrived at the Austin that we have today, who's a quite a brooding character, who's a bit manipulative. Manipulative. Oh, I can't say the word. Um, yeah, and he's just looking for a reason to kind of vent, I suppose. By the time he gets to Even If He Tried, and yeah, and then of course we've Ethan Thompson, who is Sam's best friend. and the hockey player kid who's quite handsome and gets all the girls' attention, and of course Sam's, and he is used to the attention, and Sam is not. Uh, and in an ideal world, their two worlds should not like connect, and but it's just that they have a long-standing friendship, and at this point, they're kind of holding on to what they have from the past, and yeah, they're just kind of floating through life as it is at the moment. Um, Seven, and they're realizing just how tough it is to actually still be true to your old friends, but also make new friends and find your right place in the world. Um, and yeah, Ethan also has his own struggles and problems, which become more amplified within the course of Even If We Tried, which I hope to write a sequel and uh, discuss the problems that that Ethan has in Even If We Tried, which I don't want to ruin for anybody in case you haven't read. But yeah, so if you have read, then let me know if you know what I'm talking about. But um, yeah, so he has a few issues that, of course, make the boys drift apart even further. And yeah, so the idea was that these two friends, they're kind of trying to find their way back to each other during the course of Even If We Tried, um, and show that friendship, even though it can be tested, it can still be strong enough. And even though you're mad at each other or something like that, that you can still recover, if you put the effort in. But yeah, um, yeah, the original idea for Even If We Tried was just me romanticizing this cute notion of two boys falling in love. When I originally started it, I was like 19, so I really wanted to experience first love and crap like that I never really got to experience at that age. Um, but yeah, and now as I've gotten older and I wouldn't exactly say wiser, but um, I've just I have more experience, I suppose, with love. I guess you could say in that term. Um, I just wanted to showcase how messy it could be, um, when love is on the plate. It's not always just clear cut. But yeah, so give me a second. I'll just try to get a thing here. But yeah, that's how it changed. Anyway, I'll probably just skip on and I'll read the first chapter for folks if you haven't seen it or read it yet. But um, yeah, so I'll just get on. If you have got the book, um, I'd love you can take out your copy of the book and you can read along with me, and we can keep together on the first chapter. Okay, so all right, there we go. So, Lauren, if you don't hurry up, we'll all be late, Mom yelled. I stood out in the driveway as Mom leaned against the door jamb of our front door. My sister Lauren had the uncanny knack for being less punctual than Mom and me. Putting it lightly, the only time she'd ever been on time was with her own Bert, and I'd like to think that was due to the traumatic nature of vacuum delivery. If we didn't get on the road soon, Mom would be late to work and I'd likely miss the bell for morning registration at school. I didn't have a problem with skipping school per se, but it was too much effort to come up with an excuse. That's like saying you're skipping school out on summer during summer vacation. The cold morning worked its magic on me, making me shiver as we dilly-dallied waiting for Lauren. Then I began to ponder why I hadn't gotten into the car and blasted the heat on high. Mom looked tired. She had those black bags under her eyes, and it wasn't much of a guess to assume she felt like crap. I managed to get some sleep, but usually this wasn't a typical deal. Twisting my shoulder, slumped against the door frame, getting comfortable. Do you think she'll be on time for her funeral? I asked. Mom cast me a skeptical glance. Okay. My humor is a little dark. However, I can't be wrong when it comes to Lauren. It's an That's an awfully morbid question, Mom added. I shrugged my shoulders, not disagreeing with her. We weren't exactly chuckling like headless chickens or heaving with our sides splitting from laughter, but it did amuse me a little. Mom twisted back towards the open door and called out, Lauren, if you are not out this door in 15 seconds, we're leaving without you. There was an eerie silence. Usually, when Mom got quiet, you'd be best not to antagonize her with a souring mood. With her souring mood. Yet Mom failed to answer my question. This was need to know information. I had little hope about my baby sister arriving on time, but there is always a possibility she'd end up surprising you just to be spiteful. Mom, I'm going to be late, I added. I held my phone and gave it a quick glance. If I biked to school at this rate, I'd still make first bell without getting into trouble. Mom's eyes flickered to me and we locked eyes. Her brows arched, suggesting, what? Samuel, Mom added, looking stern. Furrowing my brow, I gave her my best I'm not impressed face. Mom knew I hated being called by my full name. The only person who called me by my given name was my dad. I didn't want to risk Mom's wrath this early in the morning, so I cleared my mental clipboard of any dumb questions. Can I sit in the car? It's cold, I asked. Fine, Mom huffed. She dug into her woolen coat pocket and handed me a bunch of keys. I backed away, trying not to upset her any further. Pressing the fob, my fingers were numb from the cold. The blinkers flashed and the central locking clunked. Propping open the front passenger door, I removed my backpack, dropped it in the footwell, and crawled into the seat, shutting the door. Getting comfortable, I slumped in the seat but kept my attention on Mom, standing at the front door through the splotchy, condensated windscreen. She had it hard and mostly kept her cool around us when we acted like assholes. My attention drifted to my cell phone, cradled in my hands on my lap. Lifting it, I pressed my thumb to the biometric scanner, then navigated to Ethan's chat log. I sighed. The message hadn't changed. It was still the same as the last message. Ethan, 6:55 a.m. I'm shook. She just wanted this. Sam, 7:01 a.m. You absolute dope. Ethan, 7:01 a.m. You just jelly. Sam, 7:05 a.m. Nah. Ethan, 7:11 a.m. Yep, B. Going for a run. LTR. Sam, 7:11 a.m. MSG, when back, I've got something to tell you. Now it's 8 a.m. and I might have missed my opportunity to tell Ethan, my best friend, my secret. The one where, hey, I'm gay and I'm totally into boys, like a lot. Locking my cell, I let the device slack in my hand, then peered up, taking notice of my sister bounding out into the front yard. Mom voiced her agitation about my sister's chronic lateness. It was muffled. Lauren, I'm sick of having to wait around for you all the time. You're not the only person in this house, Mom said. The door on the driver's side opened with force, cracking as Mom drew it back. Lauren slinked along my window, delicately pulled the back door ajar, and slid into the back seat quietly. Mom bowed, then shimmied into her seat before slamming her door. My mother gripped the steering wheel, took a long, laborious breath, and sighed. With her left hand, she pinched the bridge of her nose. Do me a favor, please, sweetie. I feel like I'm always on your case, but can you be on time for your dad today? She said. I don't want to listen to him complaining. Mom returned her hand to the wheel. She grabbed the keys from me and with a heavy sigh drove the key into the ignition and the car fired to life with a twist. We backed out of the driveway and headed down Beecham Lane away from my home. As we drove, I removed my earphones from my pocket and undid the tangles. I wanted a pair of wireless ones, but Mom thought it was a bad idea since I always lost stuff. Mom always said if it were an art pencil, you'd manage to hang on to it. My head drooped with the ribbing, and I noticed how dirty my shoes were. Should I clean them? I thought. That didn't help me. That didn't help take me away or distract me from the marching ants walking up Capitol Hill in my stomach. I made plans, well, with myself, but I wanted to tell my best friend how crazy this secret made me feel. Some days, just crawling from my bed was difficult. The negative thoughts closed in from all around. Maybe this is a stupid idea. You might lose him if you come out. Maybe he doesn't want to hear it. Plus, I don't want to waste his time when he has his own problems. Other times, I just wanted to preach to the world and let every Karen and Ken know about my awesome gayness. Today is the day I'll tell Ethan how I feel. I ponder. Just one simple word and everything would be so much easier. Mom stopped at an intersection and I popped in my earbud. Mom cast a curious glance over in my direction. A slight smirk broke her hardened, stern face, and she continued with the drive. All frequencies shifted to the music. My eyes closed, and I let out a gentle sigh of relief as I got comfortable. The commute to school drowned out my hearing, fully engulfed by the world of Scott Hellman's 21 Days blasting down my ear canal. My right foot tapped against the carpeted footwell, and ultimately I drifted toward a calmer place in my mind, trying not to panic about telling Ethan. It was not like I paced around my bedroom half of the morning, anticipating his reaction. There will be other times, I'd rebuke. The music washed away my worries, and as I drifted away into the ether, my world fell fast and heavy, and my eyes sprung up. I looked around. Mom was on Harbour Street, which runs the length of Old Harbour. I removed one of my earphones, looking around, dazed, wondering where we were. Mom noticed my confusion, then cleared her throat. You okay, Sam? Did you nod off? Mom added. I reflected for a moment. Did I drift off? I think so. I rubbed my eyes. Just a little, I said. Sitting upright, I stretched in the seat, letting loose an involuntary sigh. The groan sounded throughout the car. Lauren shifted in the back seat. Her arm passed through the gap between the shoulder column and seat, and her hand tapped me on the shoulder. Did you go to sleep late again? Lauren asked. I pretended I didn't hear her, but with a prodding finger in the plexus, I twisted in the seat, somewhat peeved. Quit it. You're annoying, I added. Lauren drew back her arm, then thrust forward with renewed effort. A menacing leer broke across her plump red cheeks, the hazel blue of her eyes like fat orbs. I twisted in the seat, my stomach roiling over like a stormy gale blowing mist and rocking boats in the marina. Mom, tell her to stop, I announced. Make me, Lauren teased. Lauren dabbed at my sweatshirt. This was now apparently a game she wanted to play. I dragged my left leg onto the seat, crossing it under myself. I faced backward into the seat. The seatbelt kept me from standing up fully. Oh yeah? How about some of this? I declared. Licking my fingers, I sent my arm down the narrow slot by the seatbelt holder. Lauren shrieked, then recoiled back in fear as I swiped for her. My thin, spider-like fingers danced in midair. The cool air warmed the saliva. The air cooled the warm saliva, letting it settle on my fingertips. I smiled. This payback was so worth it. My sister flopped back, landing on the bench seat, screaming her head off. Ew, Sam, get away from me, Lauren declared. I took a low swipe at her legs, and my finger brushed through the rough fabric of her 5-in-1 jeans. It left behind a dark swab down the side of her pants. Lauren, however, twisted in the seat, taking time to look at her leg. When she saw my saliva, I was just idly sitting there. It was just idly sitting there, being all smoke, stating, "Welcome to your worst nightmare." "Sam, oh, you're gross," Lauren protested, slapping my hand away. Mom added, "Stop now." I withdrew from the battle as my sister sat forward, and a look of disgust written on her face. "Mom, Sam wiped spit in my clothes," Lauren said. "It'll dry," Mom grumbled. Smiling, I twisted back into my seat while untangling my legs, letting it drop back to the footwell by my backpack. "It's great getting the better of my sister," I rebuked. "She deserves it. Always ratting people out and being a constant granny. You're bound to get somebody who'll bite back eventually. People have better things to contend with than hearing her continuous whining. Ethan is out bright and early every day, jogging, practicing on skates, and God knows what else for his hockey semi-final. Me, I'm half caught between drawing all night and trying to make it look convincing that I don't want to sleep for a week in school. In reality, I want to crash hard on a desk and snooze the day away." We were quiet for the remainder of the journey, and I'm content with the outcome. I'm glad Lauren doesn't point out the obvious, how I've not slept much. It's a nice change instead of dictating how things should be or how I misbehaved. Sometimes my baby sister is so wise beyond her years that I wonder who is older. Neither of us make small talk. A mom flicks on the radio to break the static stillness. My attention went back to my cell phone, seeing if Ethan had messaged, uh, to see if Ethan had managed to get back to me, but his response was still lacking. It saddened me when I only wanted him to acknowledge my text. My eyes drifted to the world floating by outside my window, and we turned onto Pluckett Grove. The school was just up the road, but I was nervous about getting closer to Ethan. The radio chatter both irritated and comforted me that I was momentarily torn with what I desired. "Can you turn that down?" I snapped. Mom looked across at me skeptically, but she doesn't say much. She reaches across to the center console, twists the knob counterclockwise, and shuts the power off. The vehicle slips back into its comfortable silence. Much better. Reality rushes up to meet me as the car approaches the curb. It's scary. It's a scary thought having to confront Ethan, and while there are plenty of places to go to talk, I don't think I'd be able to tell him that I'm gay. We'd try not we'd try not to make it awkward, but it would inevitably backfire even if we tried. Sorry. So yeah, that's the first chapter of my newest book. It has changed quite a bit from my original concept. Sorry, just one second. But yeah, it has changed from the original concept. As far as I recall, without going back and looking, the original concept just started with Sam drawing in the middle of the night and then turning up to school, and just me dropping tons of exposition about Sam and his family situation. And when I revisited it this time, I did not want that same amount of exposition. So I tried to space it out, of course, over the course of the story, and make his family more of an active participant in the new novel. And I think of all the characters that I've created for his family, Lauren definitely became one of my easy favorites. The annoying little sister or sibling, even if you have a little brother that could be annoying sibling. It it just yeah, it came very close to home for me there. Um, but yeah, so that's the first chapter of Even If We Tried now. Yeah, it's just funny to think that this story has been on the back burner for 7, nearly 8 years. Every time I went to go back and start it, it just kept getting kicked further down the road. And I'm really happy that I'm finally finished it. And I know the folks who have been around from the very, very beginning are going to be really happy that the thing is finished. If they're still, I'm really invested in the characters that I created all that time ago. Um, but yeah, this is the first story as well that I shared with the world, and yeah, it was the first story I also got any feedback on, and people loved it at the time. And I've tried to keep as much as I could possibly original from the old story, but also enhance what was already there and allow it to um, meld with what I have currently created and what I am going to create in the future. So I think even if we tried is in a great position now at the moment because it allows me to further expand on a story that started it all for me. Um, if you have read the original first draft, also let me know. Tell me what you thought of it. And if you are intending to read the new version, also let me know. Um, but yeah, so uh, I really liked Lauren's really kind of edgy nature, and the mother's kind of like, I'm so over all this kind of stuff. It's like the kids are always bickering with each other, and she's just like, yeah, let's just go about the day now here and stop complaining, kind of thing. I just loved her mentality of that. Like she's just so done about everything. Um, but yeah, and even if we tried was also the first book that I shared that had an exclusive soundtrack, and every year every book or story that I release now has a dedicated soundtrack that I pick for it. Because of course music plays a big part of my life, and music is very, very important um, to my stories and the characters. Not just in general. You know, music is a language in itself, and it can convey so much information, and that's why it connects. It can do away with languages or barriers between countries and stuff like that. It could just reach all pockets of the world, and it doesn't. You don't even have to understand all the time what's being said. You can just connect with the emotion. But yeah, so that's how it started with music, and I, I just kept on it and kept building upon it. So you had Scott Hellman's 21 Days, um, which definitely inspired kind of the vibe of Even If We Tried, of Sam's kind of personality, how he's just kind of like this artsy kid who's kind of on his own and he's kind of in his own bubble. And that's kind of like what I got from Scott Hellman's music when I first heard his songs. Um, and you should definitely check out his songs. Scott Hellman's 21 Days, Machine, The Ripple Effect. They're all great songs. They're all pretty catchy. You won't be disappointed. So yeah, definitely check them out. Um, but yeah, so going forward, I hope to write a spin-off of course, Austin, his time in boarding school. I've briefly edged around the issues of what happens in Even If You Tried, sometimes with reality, and how I live now, and you get a pretty good picture of what happened. But going back now, I want to write an actual authentic first person point of view um, from Austin's point of view of that exact situation when he's in the boarding school, and how it has shaped the character that we see in Even If We Tried. And I'd love to go off and, of course, write a sequel for Ethan and his situation, his future, um, his future with hockey, his future with his um, love life, and all that other stuff, which is addressed in Even If We Tried. But I don't want to ruin it for you if you haven't seen it. But yeah, so there's that, and then of course I'd like to go back and also write a sequel to Even If We Tried, and have Sam also fill in a few little bits in Sam and Austin, how their relationship is developing. But I'd also like to have a bit more freedom and flexibility to write a little bit about maybe Nash and also Greg, who ends up becoming the antagonist in Even If We Tried. Um, yeah, although, bullies always get the rap for just being bullies, there can sometimes be great stories there. Um, you know, of origins of why they're like this, and I think it'd be a really cool story to draw upon and see what comes of Greg, or just Greg. I like Greg. It's probably an unpopular opinion. Yeah, most people would probably call him an asshole, and rightly he is. But yeah, I think he's a strong character, and I'd love to explore a little bit more of where he comes from in this whole story. Um, but yeah, that's mainly where I am with stories at the moment. Currently, I am I'm writing a lot of scripts for college, and that's why my word count was a little bit down last year, because most of my time was spent on Even If We Tried. But now that I am pretty much out of the rabbit hole that I've been in for the last year, I can really press on with other works now. I'm currently working on Dumbstruck Part 4, and I can't wait to share that. And yeah, and I hope over the summer to have a few more scripts finished. I've already worked on a couple of short films this year. One of them was called The History of a Bench. It was at the start of the year, um, in February. And yeah, I made. Oh, so no, I made it last year. So in November, October, late October, nearly November. Um, I made this short film called The History of a Bench, and it was released in February of this year. But yeah, anyway, it's based on my short story, The History of a Bench, which is compiled in the We Are Here Volume 1, which tells the story of an old couple sitting on a bench after many years of happy memories. So if you'd like to read that, and then also check out the short film, is here on YouTube in a playlist. You can have a look at that. But yeah, I hope over the summer to make a couple more short films, and I hope to share them as well, and slowly continue sharing stories, no matter what the format is, whether it's written or whether it's filmed. Stories are, I suppose, a big part of who I am, and I throughout the most isolated years of my teenagehood, they really saved me in a way. So um, they become so much more than just a story to me. They can have the power to influence and change your life. So I want to hopefully continue to create stories that inspire, or just make the world a little bit brighter in some retrospect. Um, but yeah, I think that's more or less all I'm going to talk about today. I don't want to keep folks too long. Yeah, because it's lunchtime in most of the world, and then if you're going to bed or getting up for work, if you're like Australia or something like that, I don't want to keep you too long. But yeah, anyway, thank you so much for the folks who turned up. Um, it, I'm really happy that you did. And yeah, um, yeah, I hope to see you around. And hopefully, the next time I do this, it won't be so far along um, with me actually getting on here and talking about books again. I always find it very awkward, but yeah. But anyway, thank you for showing up and you know just listening to me ramble on, especially you, Wisconsin. Um, but yeah, I hope everybody has a nice evening wherever you are or morning in the world, and I hope to see you around. And yeah, so that's about it. All right, thank you. Bye.